You're listening to Polymatic.media, episode 94 for August 2022. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Not bad. Have I finished our last Polymatic podcast? I want to say yes. I'm not even sure. We did like, what, 2 hours last time?
Yeah. Let's not do that again.
No, let's not do that again. We have a lot less links this time, so that's a good thing.
I don't think it was the links. I think we started the links at the 2 hour mark. I think it was like 2.5 hours of recording.
Oh, yeah, really?
Time.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I think what you released was just under 2 hours. But anyhow, how's it going, man?
Yeah.
What's been going on for the last month?
Lots of moving.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah. Well, you're not actually moving yet.
No,
I'm
not
actually
moving
stuff. Yeah. So we have
I'm slowly like a snail working towards a goal.
Yeah. Well, we have a move between offices coming on because the current location we're at decided to raise the rates for the rent by like 100%. So we were like, yeah, we're not taking that one.
I'm surprised. I would have figured that maybe. So let me ask this: the last location, was the company there long enough to buy it?
No, it's just it's a 7. We've been there for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But like they purchased the building, and then they decided to raise the price. So we've been through 3 rental agencies in that
mortgage
same time.
Companies. Yeah.
And the new one's just, they decided to remodel the entire ground floor and let us pay for it. Basically, that's what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, we're not taking that. First of all, we haven't been able to use it in the last 2 years, mostly because of COVID. Then they decide to go fix up the bottom floor, which is fine. But they want us to pay for all of those services, which they are going to be using. But we're not benefiting from it. So, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
So you're moving.
So we're moving, yeah. So,
and you might be able to find better deals at that point.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Because
we got a better deal.
Like here in the U.S., housing crisis is a crisis depending on what part of the the nation you're in. But a lot of companies there's a lot bigger footprint now for office space because a lot of companies, their hands were forced to sort of force their arrogancy out of making sure people and bodies were in cubicles where they could visually see them working and have to build a sense of trust to survive when everyone had to be home. So a lot of them have figured out that now that they've built a sense of trust or they have the right tools and materials to kind of know that people are working and the dynamic can be good, that they don't need so much office space, so they can save money there just by not spending it. Right? I think we'll see probably in the next 5 years a shift towards more co-working footprint spaces.
Yeah.
Right, where companies want to come together or sort of have a use of a venue for a short periods of time, and the physical office spaces will be smaller, so there's a lot of more empty buildings. But that being said, I've also seen around here they're building more corporate space, and I'm like, why? Who are these companies?
They think they're going to move back into the old system.
Right. It's like, who are these companies? I had that same sort of opinion, for the last, 30 years of me basically working this career. Where I grew up, all the sort of empty spaces, there was all woods and undeveloped area. They've filled in with like apartment complexes and housing communities and stuff like that, and also big huge buildings with parking lots for companies. And I'm just like, well, this is all glorious and gorgeous looking, but who are these companies?
Yeah.
I get it when it's like industrial something, right? When it's warehouses and it's going to be more, the shifting is going to be a little less retail and a little bit more, things are showing up at your door. But who are these companies? I don't know who they are, but they're building buildings for them to rent and lease. So,
So we have we're in a currently in a building with a bunch of companies, but like we're sharing a floor with another company.
mhm,
So they have like an internal part where they have a kitchen and that kind of stuff, and then toilets and stuff. And then we
mhm,
have 3 rooms there, one very big room and then 2 smaller rooms. And one of the rooms is more of like a meeting room, and then
mhm.
one other room is going to be well, let's just say call it a special room for a person. Um, that's going to be like a because they're not there a lot. They're
Mm.
going to be
Oh,
a little bit of a like a changing who sits there. It's going to be just if somebody
got
needs
it.
to have a meeting or whatever.
We took one of the offices on the perimeter really should be given to a specific individual that's been with the company for a long time, and he has architected a fair amount of the design, of how things work, and he never really wanted to be a lead or a manager, so he's sort of the senior developer who is basically a lead SME for a lot of things, subject matter expert for those who don't understand what I just said. Um, and that really is his office. And they tried to give him that office. And he's like, no, I want to be in the open space around people. Now, him and I are basically the only ones in the office at this point, aside from the IT, help desk and support and admins, who are required to be in the office. Outside of that, he used to sit sort of adjacent to me, and we're both in meetings all day. So he sort of moved away, or they were going to move me away, but it just turns out he's like, I'm going to move. So he moved, and we're separated a fair distance away. But he just refused to take that office because he wanted to be around people. But in the same respect, he's in meetings all day and he doesn't like to be around all the noise and the sound and the socialization, but he wants to be a part of it. He wants to be accessible to it. So again, it's a thing. It's a him thing. So they had, I guess, previously when there's more office atmosphere, they had turned that room into the place where you do all your coffee stuff because he's a big coffee person, and so him and I bond in that respect. But what they did is they turned that room into anyone who needs actual quiet office space, going to be in meetings all day or something, is in the office. And what you can do is you can remotely connect from that room to your PC. So they set it up that way for having a quiet room like that. Um, and
Hmm.
it's for anybody. It's not necessarily for me. I alone, and sometimes I have a lot of meetings, and I have to speak up, and it's not that even if I'm being a quiet mouse, like it doesn't matter. Um, Sometimes I actually need an actual space. Now that being said, if I can plan for that, I just stay home.
Yeah,
You
there's
know.
we have the CEO of the company in the same room now, which is he likes to have his meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and he's pretty loud when he
Mm-hmm.
talks. But like, there's also like moments where he turns on his microphone, turns on the
Oh, it's
speaker,
speakerphone. Yeah.
and that's yeah, that's I'm about to grab my Nerf gun and start shooting Nerf at
Mm-hmm.
him.
I like when people are in the office. It's good to see people. That being said, there are some groups that get very social, which is good. That's a good sort of team bonding office experience. And most of those people that are like that, it's because previous to everything, they had that sort of in office culture. So I guess it was
Before
kind
times.
yeah, the before times where it was kind of noisy, and everyone benefited from that sort of, friendship, um, you know, actively. And now we have more people that are just full remote. That being said, I benefit from having my noise canceling headphones because I need to think sometimes, or I need to document, and I can't I'm not eavesdropping, but I can't not hear things.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Me
here's
too.
I
I have a I have a headset on most of the day because like there's too much stuff going on,
Mm-hmm.
and the next week is going to be very difficult for me because on Tuesday we're moving, so
Mm-hmm.
that day is gone. I have a new project that I need to get ready to start coding on. So gotta prepare a new copy of the code base for that project, and then on Thursday we have the team meeting, which is going to be a lot of people in the office
Mm-hmm.
for, you know, and I think it's probably gonna the move is probably gonna move into Wednesday because there's too much stuff going on.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's
Yeah, that's the thing is you never make room for the disruption. It's the same thing the way I feel about when I move the house. In effort for that, I'm going to have to record a whole bunch of things in advance so that I have like a week or two to like wire up the gear and stuff like that. Even OG, I'm going to have to do some stuff there so that I can take my good old time to set stuff up and not just sort of rush wire things.
So what I
Usually,
hear you
it's a
saying is
headache.
we're recording the October Polymaticast at the beginning of October, and then the one for November at the end of November.
We probably this will probably be still set up, in that sort of like. There's a whole bunch of these mics and stuff over here that aren't active really on the regular anymore, right? So I can kind of tear those down and pack those up. When Simon was here on last Sunday, sorry, last Monday when we recorded, I'm like, you're probably going to be the last person who ever records in this room with me in this house, and he's like, oh. And I was like, "Yep." I was like, "Because I'm gonna take all that stuff down. I have all this stuff wired, but there's nothing stopping me even from today. I think the way I've been dealing with it is I'm gonna deal with upstairs stuff as much as possible, and then I'm kind of nearing that point before I really get into the heavy stuff. Anything that's sort of like in my office space area. Um, when I'm ready to move that, I'll just literally just you know put effort on it and just move stuff. And as soon as I have a place to move stuff to, right? That's my key thing there. Um, but I mean, from the top floor down, and then when I get here, that's when the real work is really going to happen in terms of my moving, aside from getting rid of junk. So, yeah. So when I get to that moment, I can tear a bunch of stuff down related to this recording setup.
Hmm.
Like I can do a lot of that. I can thin this space out. I don't really need a web camera. No one's really looking at me. You're the only ones looking at me to see if I'm talking. You always hear me talking, so that's not a problem. Um, so I can thin that out, and probably October 1st we can record, and then at that point I have to start really doing my regular stuff in advance, you know, so that I have that freedom of being able to tear everything down as a final state. And then, you know, I need when I move in October, I need at least, I need some time. It doesn't go fast, right? I mean, it does go fast. I've done it so many times. I hate doing it. I hate moving and rewiring everything. And
Do you
it
get
just,
some do you get some time off work for like a move?
I don't even know.
Because over here we
I'll have
do, but
vacation time I
like
could use, but
sounds
I'm
like
I'm likely I'm likely not going to. I'm likely going to move everything pretty much in the weekend. Um, I think in my brain I'm paying for rent for this month, so I'll have the auxiliary of time, you know, a couple more weekends before I'm officially out by November. Um, so yeah, yeah. Um, anyhow, so I'll be able to do some of that stuff in advance. That was the point of
yeah.
bringing it up.
Anyway, we have I think after that move, I think we're completely out of that old location.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a lot of boxes together, but like there's so much stuff that we dragged away from the last location
Mm-hmm.
that we still never really used over there. I'm like, oh, should I just throw it away? Throw it away? Yeah, I'll throw it away.
I mean that thinking is exactly the logic I have here. I had that prior, and then when I
Yeah.
got here, and I still have stuff that is, I guess call it the storage space, mechanical room storage space. Um, that's walled off here on the other side of this wall that I'm staring at right now. Uh, and there's stuff that I should have packed away that I never unpacked. Um,
I
and
I
I will probably keep like those CDs and stuff as they are. I'll just carry those across. But it's all the new stuff that like I just piled up when I first got here and didn't figure my stuff out. Like that stuff, I'm likely to consolidate the little bits and parts in those boxes and then just trash all those boxes.
hmm.
Unless
So
there's some key boxes that are like really good to keep that are useful and moving, that'll get figured out.
yeah, I saw a video somebody complaining about millennials and keeping all the boxes for everything.
Oh yeah, there's a TikTok video that goes like, "This is for all the millennials," and it's like, "You don't need your boxes, get rid of them." And she turns, and there's this pile of boxes like, "You do not need all your boxes." And I had the same opinion. And that being said, I'm staring off onto a corner of stuff in my brain. I'm like, one day I'm gonna move, and when I move the board, I could put it back in its box. And I'm like, nope. Nope, no. I'm just gonna literally lift this thing, put it carefully in the back of my car. I'm gonna take 5 dozen trips back and forth delicately for all this
Yeah,
stuff.
well,
Carry it up onto the third floor and put it on the floor there for ready for me to start setting up the new studio.
yeah, I do collect boxes. But I also I got a wooden chest, a little wooden box, like a
Mm-hmm.
handmade box for my stuff for in my little office space here, like to keep knickknacks like USB keys and adapters and stuff like that, and that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
nice. And then there's like a bunch of like product boxes. I have
Mm-hmm.
the box for the Zoom. I have the boxes for the computers. I have the boxes for all sorts of stuff. There's a box in my living room for a new computer for my workspace computer, my
Yeah.
makerspace. I keep
So
collecting everything, and
I
it's a big
don't know
mess.
where it is. It used to be on the table, but then I moved it probably back in the storage space. I have before I even moved in here, and I had that thing for years. When in my last car, I had the dual DIN, so I had planned to pay somebody to wire up and put in a car PC that I bought, and I spent a bunch of money for that stupid thing. And it's so old, it's not even dual processor; it's single processor. We're not talking cores or anything. It's like a
I
Pentium
remember you
something.
talking about car PCs. Didn't we
Yeah,
like
yeah,
have
because I had the Rio car, and then I was gonna do that, and then I bought, I forget what it was. I still have a license to it, but I bought whatever the expensive Windows software that people made for doing these car PCs. I mean, now that's sort of a non. You don't need to do that anymore. You
You're gonna
can
stick
get
that
by with.
into your Tesla?
No, 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 God no. But at the time I was gonna put it in my my car, and I had a I mean, it's crappy resolution now. It was okay. It was kind of crappy resolution back then, but it was one of those things where you pushed on it and it would spring pop out, right? That was a screen in your car. I have that somewhere boxed away with a actual physical CD Windows XP license CD. That's how old that thing is. It's
Wow.
been boxed away. I never addressed it because at that point I was just like, I don't want to spend $800 to put this in my car now. I mean, at the time it was relevant. I had, without getting into a story, I took a trip, came back, and my car was not in great shape, and the 1,200 bucks or something in budget that I had for that effort basically went into spending it on fixing up my car when I came back, because I came back and it was sitting at one of those auxiliary airports, and it got really super cold temperatures, and the car was just sitting there, and for like almost, I don't know, 4 days or something, and it barely would start. So I took it to the mechanic, and it cost me a bunch of money, and
Hmm.
then I was like, well, I got to get rid of this car, and then 10 years later I finally get rid of it. Um, but
Throwing
yeah.
away stuff is important. I learned from a book that I recently purchased. I got the Marie Kondo
Mm-hmm.
book. I was like, okay, I'll just have a listen. Everybody keeps raving about this. I'll just,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, it boils down to throw shit away. Just throw
Yeah,
it away.
I every time I comment on that, I said like I've heard about this book, I heard about the show, and
There's a show.
I and yeah, there was a show on Netflix. They made a live action show out of it.
Okay.
Um, so I like I said like I already came to a conclusion when I last moved, and then I explain it, and there's one like person at work always comments is like, I know, Alan. I said, but Marie Kondo's thing is the complete opposite. Does it spark joy? And I'm just like, I hear the whole thing,
That
and I'm
that woo
like,
woo stuff, that's annoying. I completely understand that, but like the thing with what she discusses is like take everything of the same type out, put it together, and then throw away what you don't want,
mm-hmm,
and then you organize it. Not before, and start organizing everything together. No, grab everything, put it in a big pile in the middle of your living room. If you have room in your living room, that is. But like, put everything in a big pile, sort through it, what you want to keep and what you want to throw away. If you don't want to, if you're thinking, oh, maybe somebody else can use it, don't do that. Don't just make sure it gets to recycling.
right,
Recycling is more important than giving it to somebody else, because if somebody else takes it,
mm-hmm,
it will eventually either come back to you, or it will end
right.
up in a pile over their place,
And it's
and
funny
you're making
because
their
it
problem
sounds
worse.
like my disposition on it is different, but it sounds like it's the same kind of thing. And I always tell the story because I recall when I was in the first house, I was sitting there and I basically cleaned up and moved the bulk of everything, and that was a time where like Matt was calling me up or other people were calling me. He's like, oh, what's going on? And it's like, oh, well, I already moved everything. I'm just doing final cleanups. Like, oh, I'll come over and help. And they were helping me sweep or whatever. But I've already did the bulk of everything, and I had a couple final things like out of the storage closet and stuff like that that I left in the center of the basement. There, it was like to take out, take down. And I was like, the only help I need is like, can you grab that box and help me take it down? And that's it, right? And so Andrew, known as AKA Botas, and Matt were like, and a couple other people are like looking at the stuff and they're seeing the stuff in the box and they're like, but Alan, that has value. I mean, that's really, and I looked at them and I said, okay, so here's the deal. You can take it, but you take it and I don't ever see it again. I see it in your house, but it doesn't come back to me. No give backs. I said, I have the benefit of 12 years of knowing that I used that once and that thing twice. And
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And I realized that, well, it had meaning for me or the potential of meaning for me. Ultimately, the reality is I didn't use it. So it doesn't merit any place going forward. So
Yeah.
I'm going to just take it down and I'm gonna trash it. It's trustworthy. Anything else I recycled, I already recycled. And they're like, again, the same kind of thing. And, I made that point and they go, and I stopped them in their tracks of what they were saying, and they realized that their impulse, their compulsive behavior to think that way just didn't align. And for me, I was very clear on it. So I took it down. And before I was even, by the time we got in 5 minutes later to the next round of boxes I was dragging down, someone had already stopped because the way that house was, the back of the driveway, the back of the house was on a major road, and the front of the house was on sort of a small community neighborhood. So I had sort of front and back of the house. I basically had two different roads, and someone had already stopped, put their blinkers on, and was already picking away, the big items. Um, and I was like, all right, that's creepy, but I'll let them be. Let them pick away at stuff. At least they'll recycle it. They'll put it to use somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fine. And then I got to a threshold of that, and I carried a bunch of that crap here, including a bunch of furniture I didn't know what I was going to do with, and I thought not to throw it out, even though it's certainly not relevant. I have at least two. I have this big hutch that is like meant for a big TV and a stereo system to go in it. That I inherited from a roommate. I inherited another piece of furniture that's in the storage space that I can just trash. Again, I have no use for it going forward. And then I have another version that I had from when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, that we built, and it's in my bedroom, and I'm gonna trash that too. So the big furniture stuff, I'm just gonna trash. And I had a haircut yesterday. I was talking to Reedy, and she turned to her coworker. She's like, "Hey, do you need any furniture?" I'm like, "You don't want the furniture." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "It's not relevant for current day." And I looked at Reedy, and I just said, "Here's how I'm dealing with it. I'm gonna clean up all the stuff. I'm gonna give away a couple of things that people said, yeah, I totally want that." And the rest of it, I'm going to trash. I'm gonna pay someone to take it away that then takes that valuable electronics and gets the precious metals out of it, and they process it appropriately. I'm going to pay for a couple people to come in who physically lift that thing, walk it upstairs out of the basement, walk it out of the house, and put it into their skiff. And that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay people to get rid of the junk. I'm not going to stick it on the curb and donate it, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give it to someone who's going to take that thing apart and reclaim the wood out of it. That's what I want to do. That's the appropriate thing to do, because it serves no value, and all I did is stack junk on it. You know, so it's funny because as everyone describes Marie Kondo stuff, I'm like, oh, I think I have a very similar point of view.
Yeah, but like in like the some people think it's like, oh, you have to do it like in a day, but no, you don't really have to. What you have to
No.
do is just, so for example, I started with my clothes. I have a lot of clothes from when I was like a lot heavier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those clothes I cannot wear anymore because they're too big. They're just huge,
Yeah.
and I have to throw them away. I have to do something with them. And at first I was like, okay, my brother's a little bit bigger. He might be able to use it. I'm like, no, I'm just going to throw it away. I'm just going to put it into the recycling bin. So I went to the recycling bin, put all that stuff that I don't want anymore into the recycling bin. And now I have just the shirts, just the pants, and just the underwear and stuff. All stuff that I still want to keep. I threw away so many old T-shirts. I think I threw away I recycled all the Google I/O shirts. I don't have them anymore. I was keeping them for like, oh yeah, maybe one day I'll just wear it and like, oh yeah, it's cool. But
I
like, I don't want to keep them anymore because they're old.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't wear them on the regular, right? And most of the
Oh,
geek shirts and
they were
stuff that I
wonderful
used
shirts.
to.
I love them. They're very soft shirts from Google I/O, but like, I just want to get rid of them because they're old.
I had a lot of convention shirts that I got rid of, and again, they had meaning for me in my life,
Mm-hmm.
but they just been sitting up on a shelf taking space up, and every time I would go, they would just give another three shirts, another three shirts, and after 10 years of that, like there's a pile of it. So I donate it to a place where I know that they basically take whatever they're given, aside from sneakers, um, and they take all the little metal and plastic bits out, and once they disassemble them, they basically shred it up and they turn it into felt, which or ends up getting bleach dyed and turned into blue jeans. Like they recycle stuff. Blue jeans are made of recycled materials. While they're really good thick materials, they're not normally. I mean, they recycle the materials, they reprocess them, and then they make tough, durable, pants out of them. But that's what they do if you do it to the recycle at the right place. And so everyone's like has this opinion. Oh, you can get rid of your stuff here and right here. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to pay
Well,
someone
we
that I
have
know where and how they're going to recycle it.
over
You
at
know.
the local supermarket. They have a bin. There's two very large bins for putting clothes into. So they have like you put a little garbage bin, you put your clothes
Yeah.
in that, and you toss that into that bin. And that's they recycle that, and I think most of it gets shredded and then reused as insulation and stuff. But yeah,
It's just it's
getting rid of this stuff is important.
Yeah, it is. And there's also some additional thought that I came up with my own. Again, there's no Marie Kondo book for me to read or know that she existed or anyone putting out ideas like this. Um, but at the time, I sort of framed a couple things. I looked at something and I go, okay, there's always a side thought in my head. Oh, I want the option of that.
Yeah.
But I have to look at what's the viability of that option? Now, The most systemic thing that I do is I have like these art box. They look like fish, like fish tackle boxes or whatever tackle boxes of of different adapters and screw mounts and rod, um, adapters, couplers and stuff like that. And I put them in a box. And so I drag all that stuff to Otakon. But there are stuff like I needed something, open up the box, and it's kind of heavy. And I opened it up and I pulled out a couple things and I put what I needed in the moment to put the interview set together. And that's it. I needed the two or three things. But I didn't know that until I was in that environment, until I was in that situation. So that's like one of those cases where I spent like every month I would buy two or three or whatever, and there'd be like $50 this, $50 that. And it ends up being a lot in the end, but I have all that I need. And unless I need more of it, I've bought all that I need, and I've stopped the process of buying. It also satisfies myself to have that sort of, you refer to it, purchase therapy a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
at some point. Um, and so that's kind of how I've handled it. But I also have thought to myself, going forward, one of the things I noticed was I was doing something I think was psychological, which was I felt like I did not have control over my world. I felt like I had stuff to say. This is not um, at the peak point of social media where everyone could express themselves freely, or as publicly and actually be seen and heard, out of random discovery. And that's probably part of why I was in a community where I thought we had a lot to say to each other, so therefore I created a podcast. And so, there was a value add for that for me, and that's the kind of thing that you see often when people get involved in external projects is they might not feel satisfied at work, but they'll or they spend the bulk of their time, or they might not feel satisfied at home inside their family, structure, or something, right? They don't feel satisfied that they're contributing to the world, so they feel like they got to do something where they feel in control of it. That's also a lot of times why people. It's like therapy for people who play video games. They want to have something, some kind of level of achievement or something, even if it's not, um, at the end of the day, does not fill their pocket up with money. Um, so for me, it was one of those things that I noticed the psychological part of it is aside from me creating AMVs and sharing and doing other things and contributing, that didn't seem enough for me. So I noticed that I would buy stuff and I'd pile stuff up behind me and around me, and you see this noise in my webcam view, and if you were in the room, you just see all this crap. I felt like I was filling my I wasn't a hoarder, but I was filling my world up like it was purchase therapy snuggie. And so I got this sort of thought in my head and like, don't do that anymore because you just tossed a lot of that out, right? And so that was sort of a conscious thought that I had in my head not to do that here. And while I'm throwing a bunch of stuff out, it's mostly there's most of it is the big issues for me have been the same issues, which were things I didn't know what to do with when I moved last time. So the remnants of when I last moved, like furniture and stuff that I ended up really not optimally using. So I have that same problem. The same thing with all those electronics. Like there was not as good opportunity to recycle things as there is today. So there's more options for me to do that and appropriately. So I will now. But I carried a problem from the past into 12 years into my current present day. And, I left the problem for myself right now, which is now I have to address it. And so I have this aggressive thought in my head not to do that going forward, right? Get
I
rid of the furniture that doesn't apply. And then when I'm in the new environment, then I can evaluate what I need and figure out how to get it.
What about
Yeah.
papers?
So I have that problem. I never addressed that. I have a pile over there, and I have a pile of stuff that I never shredded from the past house. I bought a little tiny little shredder. I'm staring at it. I need to buy a bigger one. And I'm probably going to put those in bags, and I'm going to carry them in a new place, and then I'll probably actually make myself shred stuff.
Hmm.
because I never made time for it. I never made a routine for it.
I have so many
Um,
documents that I need to go through that I need
mhm.
to throw away.
Yeah, and
There's so
so
much stuff that needs to go away.
my father's approach was get a filing cabinet, and then
No, 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 no. You don't
and
want a
he
filing cabinet. You don't want any cabinet. You want like
right.
a small stack of stuff you still need to take care of, like stuff that came in recently that you need to
Hmm.
take care of. That's it. And then stuff that you want to keep. And
Hmm.
that's just in a box somewhere.
So I roughly have all receipts and stuff get shredded, and they just really have been going into a box, and the box goes
Well, most of
into
the
a
receipts you
trash
get
bag.
digitally now, so it's not much of
Right.
an issue anymore.
Um,
And
and
same
so
thing with
there's
like bills from companies. I get them all as PDFs in my inbox, and I
I try
don't.
to go paperless, but there's some that just they don't care, and they send me things anyways. Um, and just even when you go paperless, they just want what they want is they just want they want pre-authorization to just bill you. And I don't want to do that because then when they screw up, they just take money out of my account that I can't get
Bye
back.
bye money.
Yep. So what I do is I say go paperless or whatever it is, and some of them I'll do e-bills, right? And a couple of them I trust and it's fine, and I'll do a one-time payment through the app, right? So that's kind of how I manage it. But that being said, I have a ton of receipts. There's a pharmacy locally here that has this tremendous. They have to print everything out, like a bunch of in-store coupon stuff. And the thing is, I don't, I don't do makeup, and I don't do a lot of lotions. So because of that, I'm immediately not getting a benefit of those sort of extra bucks that they call them. And the receipt is 10 miles long. And if they really want to be ethical and save some
Coupons.
money, they can just not do that, right? They now have like a coupon kiosk, um, but I never benefit. I go there mostly for prescriptions. And if I'm in the store, I'll pick up some band aids and I might pick up some alcohol swabs, and maybe lens cleaners, or maybe I need some cough syrup or something. Like I'll pick up some of those random things, but none of those ever apply to the coupons. So I'm in there for utility. I'm not in there to shop on the daily.
Well,
Um,
most of that stuff you can probably have delivered.
sure, or I can get them when I'm at the market, right? But again, I'm not a lotions person, and I don't wear makeup, so I don't benefit from where those coupons really apply.
Yeah.
And I don't have a family where we kind of need that stuff around and we use it on the regular as a collective. So again, I don't benefit from it, but they print out a lot of stuff. So now what you get is you get places will allow you to email you, but of course now they're going to spam you a lot. And then there's this one where it's your options are email or email and print.
And print.
Yeah, and print. And I'm
Oh
just
no.
like, could you just, or actually no, it's print or email and print, and it's not, So it's just like, oh, come on, really, really.
Yeah.
Um, so anyhow, my point is that I do. You asked the question, and I have the stuff for the receipts and crap that I just want to shred immediately, which I never do. I've never built in a conducive habit to do that actively, um, and that's a lingering problem for me. But I'll have a garage. I can literally set up a shred station for
You
myself,
can
and I
have
can
a
just
garage sale.
anytime I'm like coming out of the store and I have receipts, I can literally just put it into the thing and shred it immediately before I walk into the house.
Which is kind
Uh,
of funny that you just not get the receipt.
right, I get that. And then there's the stuff that shows up, that sort of I would say junk mail. Sometimes it's like legally required for companies that they have to mail you a thing when you're a stockholder or when you're this or that. They have to send it to you by, uh, you know, and what you get is you take out what you need, and then you have to. When I pay things that didn't cover on my insurance, um, I get that from the dentist or the doctor. It's like you owe us $50. Insurance paid this, and this is the difference. So they send an envelope with an envelope inside it and a little piece of paper you're supposed to rip off and write a physical check. And they don't always have online things you can just go and pay. But even when they do that, they send you the letter. And what do you do with that? Right? And so, I have a separate pile of stuff that's not a security shred, but still needs to be shredded
Mm.
because I don't really need it anymore.
Yeah.
There's just things like that, and so you're right, and I need to buy a bigger shredder, but I'm not going to in the next 60 days try to sort that out here. I'm gonna do what I did last time. I'm gonna pile all that stuff up in bags, and then I will either find a secure place that just takes the massive shredding and deal with it that way, or I will sort of just make that as a project effort, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not going away. And then I gotta, I don't know, I probably just have to put some of these important old documents in, get more organized about it and put them in a tote, and at least mark on what the years are, and then maybe get some physical folder dividers or something to say, okay, this is, 2018, this is 2019, retain some records at some point. But I'm not going to do what my father would suggest, which is get a big old metal filing cabinet. Just not going to do that.
Well, you still have to organize everything, so.
Yeah. I just sort of stack the pile. So when I get where you go your tax information, where you go to those, and I would just stick it on the pile, and it would be on the top layer of the pile, right? And so I'd go process everything, and then I move on, you know. So
Yeah.
I need to get organized with that, but I'll have a house to do that. So that's just another project for another day, another year.
I think the whole concept of her the way she set up the book, it's like she has a lot of anecdotes about her clients, how they did things and how happy they are with their system,
Mm-hmm.
and never relapsing into the old way of hoarding things. Um,
I used to
I can
have
see that.
emotional attachments to things, and then I had sort of functional attachments to things. And, again, I had the hindsight of checking in on myself and going, I didn't see the value, or I didn't, the potential of what I was hoping for never realized. So I look at it from that perspective. I don't look at it, look, my mother's like, do you want all your baby pictures? No, not really. Why would I keep
Digitize them,
that?
have
I
them
mean,
scan them.
when she passes away and I have to deal with it, I'll take them and I'll put them in a tote, and then they'll sit there in storage. That's it. That's what's gonna happen. Um, because I gotta live in the now. I can't live in the past. That doesn't mean don't forget your past, but what value do they sit around seeing pictures with Alan with lots of hair? What value does that offer to me in my near future? Oh, well, you gotta store that in a vault, in a place, in a thing in your life for your whole life. And I'm like, why? Wouldn't it be better for me to put some stuff there that really serves me now? You know, and I mean that's sort of my perspective on it. Is if it doesn't serve value, it's the same thing with clothes. Why was I holding on to so
I
much
think
clothes?
your concept of if it doesn't serve value is the same thing as what she means by
Right.
spark joy.
I, yeah, and I that's exactly it. I think I already came to that conclusion on my own. And every time someone's read the book or is a full on stan of um of Marie Kondo, they're like, Alan, your view is so negative. It's totally different. And I was like, I think the concepts are aligned. I just I come at it from a different point of view because I look at it from the realistic, not the emotional or functional attachment, right?
Yet your house is full
Most
of
guys,
stuff.
yeah, and then we're full of stuff, and then this is why we hate moving, because then all we do is
Purge.
we move
Time to
we
purge.
we move our bad impulses from the past.
Hmm. This is why I think moving, like the whole moving thing with the office, gives me lots of energy to do it. Like get rid
Mm-hmm.
of stuff, clean up stuff. Like I will next week when my cabinet comes from the old office to the new office, I'll be taking it apart, taking everything out of it, throwing stuff away, and shredding it as much as possible, and just getting rid of all the old papers and old wires and cables and stuff that I can't use anymore, because that's all office stuff. But I have to get rid of it, because at some point somebody's going to come to my desk and see that cable and want to take that cable, and then eventually it will end up on my desk again.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to get rid of that. I have the same problem at the office, but like at my house, I'm starting with my clothes, and I'm pretty much done with that. And all I have to do is organize it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've got, I had to throw out all my nice pants. So all the, official going to some function or whatever pants,
Mm-hmm.
they're all gone. I don't have them anymore. I need to buy new ones,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm in the process of losing so much weight that if I buy ones now, in
You
about a
won't have
month, it'll be too big for me.
Yeah. I did that first wave, and I did the obvious stuff, and I had them sort of sitting in a pile in my closet here for a long while. Now I noticed this week I was walking in my room, and I was just happening to be looking down towards the direction where that pile used to be, and it wasn't present. And I was like, oh yeah, that feels good. But that being said, there's stuff in my closet that I even need to go through, even go through that even more. Maybe the Google I/Os and stuff like that, right? That kind of junk. I even stuff like I created from the past that I
Throw away
probably
the
don't
shortener
need.
shirt.
I'm gonna hold on to that right now. That might be one of those few things where I have it and I never use it. And I have some like LTT shirts, just a couple of them, not many. I have something from like Orla that I'll probably never really wear, and I'll probably keep some of those. But I had ones even from the past that I didn't have as much attachment to, that I was just keeping. And it was like, oh, that was a good time when I went to that, and I was in Milwaukee, and that was really fun. And have a shirt from that experience, and like I trashed it, right?
Hmm.
And or well, I donated it, right? I donated. They made that process pretty easy. So, for things like that, I have to go through the drawers again and do that. And I realize I can pack those in advance. It's like the conversation I was talking about, recording studio stuff. Like the only mic I really need to kind of retain is the board plus this plus the computer system setup. All this crap over here can go upstairs, and the stuff, the junk, all the stuff over here, I can start actually organizing to pack up.
But couldn't you even do your recording upstairs? Just get
The
record
sound
on the
environment is
new.
just not the same. I tried to do that a while ago. It just doesn't transpire to be the same kind of environment. So when I have to change my environment and adjust for that, that's going to be a whole calibration point anyways. So there's just something about the big monitors that cause deflection problems for me.
Yeah.
So I need a mic that is not enraptured by or flanked by or have things around or infrastructure around. The advantage of being in this space here, I get environmental noises here. In fact, I had, the AC one on, and I had to turn it off, not realizing I should have turned it off before recording. But I get environmental
so now I have to
stuff.
deal with that.
I get people from coming around the road that's a distance away, braking hard. There's the train goes by. Like there's noises that happen outside, physically happen outside the basement, that still make their way into this environment. But for the most part, my approach was, I wanted a place where it was easy for people to walk around and sit down and have a conversation. So what I did is I chose to put these folding tables straight down, sort of, I wouldn't say exactly center, but in the room where there is very little deflection, right? I benefit from some deflection behind me and to the left of me. But for the most part, whenever I got people in the room, the noise sort of, except them being in close proximity to each other and the mic's getting sort of the back off access, pickup. For the most part, everyone's really isolated, and it had to do with being able to not have a lot of Like I'm sort of kind of partially center in the room, you know? So my voice goes against a wall that's several feet away, not like a foot away, right? It's not really deflecting off of anything. So I'm gonna try to represent, recreate that kind of experience. But when I'm at home, streamer mic versus podcast recording mic, they're gonna be separated from each other.
Yeah.
So I might actually put the SMB, the 7M, the Shure mic in use of the podcast group, setup. I don't know. Haven't done it yet. Until I move, I'll set it up then. So.
Yeah. I was looking at my current setup because I have a USB interface in my makerspace now. I have the Zoom board on my main PC that I also use for like recording games, and then I have my Focusrite Red Scarlet thingy over behind me in the ArtStation thing. I don't really use it during streams because I don't usually turn the microphone on during streams anymore.
I use the
amount of people that show up during streams and the art streams. Nobody really does that anymore. There's not a lot of art stream people showing up anymore. I think it's probably because the platform I'm on is not that big and there's not a lot of eyeballs. So having interaction with people.
I was looking at, it was at Otakon, and they had a makerspace, and they had a table in the corner. They had a couple of them, but they had this one where they had sort of feature makers, where it's like called Ask an Expert, and one of the people that I know is big with Gunpla, and he's like, oh, well, I'm going to be doing this thing. If you want to get some video of me doing that. That would be interesting, above and beyond what's going on, around here. It's like, all right, I'll totally come down. It's like when and where. And so I went and I got maybe about 15 minutes worth of stuff on him. And this sort of big round table, maybe, I don't know, in my head, I want to say it probably sat at under 20 people, but definitely more than 10. I'd be sitting here counting my head. It would take me a moment, so I'm not going to do that. But I would say at least anywhere from a dozen to maybe 18 people could sit around this table. And it's a fairly large table, so you got to keep in mind they're opening like the Gunpla model kits, and they're making it, and they're having conversation. And there's an older gentleman who is sort of the expert, and then there were younger guys who were like asking questions like, "Oh, what do you do when you get to this?" And I was filming that scenario. And so I had found a while ago someone who was on Twitch where she just does that. She just does Gunpla. That's it. She sits there, makes, and she talks with, people who are chatting with her. And she responds to it like a streamer would. And her interaction is very chill. And, music's playing in the background, and she's just doing it, sometimes. And she's got this is what she does, but she just put a camera on it. And it doesn't hurt that she also works for Twitch, so that's sort of like Twitch staffer, blah blah blah, playing, building Gundams, and I'm like, oh, interesting, okay. And so you don't see a lot of that, but you do see people do Legos and stuff. You see people cook, so there's sort of this crafting experience that you see on Twitch.
Yeah, so that's my idea for doing the electronic stuff on my workbench.
Yeah,
3D printing electronics.
And you see with programmers too, people who are just they make that full time. Actually, they do a programming project or they teach. I know of. I don't have his phone number, but if I send him something on Discord or whatever it is, he responds to me, because we're proxied through. We have a relationship through other friends. But he works for Microsoft and he does Microsoft things and he builds projects using, and like first time he's trying out the new stuff, right? And he has a small community, and any income he earns from that, he donates it back to charity. So there seems to be a little less of chilling with your friends, playing games together, stuff happening on Twitch. In a good way, and certainly we all know in a bad way too. So there seems to be more of that, but to your point, there seems to be a lot less people drawing that I noticed on Twitch.
Yeah, for some reason, I think the whole concept of art streaming is kind of dead at the moment. There's not a lot of people that are doing it, and even on like the specific platforms like Picardo, where it's like there's not a lot of people there right now. It's just, it's also summer in the northern hemisphere, so it's probably got something to do with it. But like in the last couple of months, it's been very, very quiet. And yeah, I want to at some point switch over to something different, and it's probably a good idea. Then I'm gonna just do electronic stuff.
I haven't done my streaming thing because I'm not sure what it is I want to provide. Like I could sit there and I could edit audio, right? But my problem is I only have so much bandwidth to do that. I do that very specifically for things. So I was thinking, well, what would I edit that when you edit something, you're trying to trim up stuff. You care about, making people sound less like a jerk, or keeping pace.
It's very
something
hard.
on pace, right? We talk about something it's like maybe we don't want to. It was comfortable between us, but maybe we don't want to include that to be released. And why would I want to create a stream of that, right? Because the point of editing is to kind of remove the stuff you don't want out in the world.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, maybe I could edit boring stuff, like stuff that I say on mic, for like This Attack is Life, but then it's not like we recorded for 2 hours. I've recorded for 2 hours and I cut it down to 2 minutes. I've recorded for 6 minutes, did a couple takes, and I cut it down to 2 minutes, right? Which is basically the bulk of one of those takes, or there's a phrasing for it. Musicians do this all the time. They comp it. There's specific phrasing. I heard this in a Billie Eilish interview, where you take sort of different inflections and you comp them together. That's kind of what I do. I do them in different inflections, and I just run them, sort of improv what I want to say. And then I say, oh, I don't like that inflection. It was too flat. Let me see if one of my other takes, it was better. And that's how I do that.
Sometimes you do that for Polymatic, and then record the same thing a couple of times.
No, let's
not.
It'd be 9 hours for you to still cut a 2 hour thing. Yeah. But anyhow, the point is that I haven't decided. I haven't started streaming because I don't know what I want my contribution to be unique for me. I don't care whether it's unique in all of Twitch. Just unique for me, right? What do I want to do to contribute on the regular?
Well, you don't have to stick to the same thing. You can just start.
Sure, right. I understand that. And then also when I play a video game, I'm not used to talking out loud, taking my thoughts and putting them out loud. Right?
Yeah, that can
I'm
be
not
hard.
conducive to be chatty while I'm playing a game privately.
Yeah. And if you're recording ahead of time, like if you're recording and then just talking over the game by yourself, that can get really disturbing.
If you don't have an immediate audience. And well, I have people that know me from podcasting. I don't think that you could have me at a convention that makes the most sense, and I'd fill a room of more than 3 people. That's how I feel about it in my brain. I see what the numbers are for the podcast, but those podcasts are not about me. The one that is about my point of view, I mean, it has people from all over the world. People download it, and I'm surprised. I'm like, who are these people? Why do they follow me? And that those numbers sort of overlap into the normal main podcast. But I don't feel like I could fill more than a few people in a room who really care about me, right? Like on the day-to-day would follow me and see me somewhere and go, oh my God, you're that I don't think I have that fan base, right? So I look at it from a perspective of, when I say fan base, I mean, I don't immediately have a community where I go start streaming and I expect 50 people to show up. I don't expect anyone to show up. So it'd be odd for me if I have no interaction live. I'm not used to looking away and multitasking my attention in a chat room while I'm, real time doing something. I hyper focus. I'm on doing the one thing or I'm not doing the one thing. right? And I'm not used to those conducive conditions. So I have to do something that's unique for me. And if it catches on, it's because it's unique. It's not going to catch on because I am someone of note. That was the point of that whole rant.
Yeah, or you can just get started with something fun that you like to show people.
Sure.
It doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, Gundams, or it doesn't have to
No, no, no.
be something. I saw a stream with somebody who was making some Gundams last week. I
Mm-hmm.
just popped in, had a look, and had a talk with a person through the chat. It was fun.
Is that on another? Is that on Twitch or is that where else is
That was on
that?
Picardo.
Oh, on Picardo. Okay, interesting. So maybe that's why I'm not seeing a lot of it on Twitch because I was just out of curiosity. Out of curiosity, I went and I was like, I wonder if Otakon should have more like Ask an Experts for the makerspace. And maybe who are those people? I only know of one. And I randomly, you know, I saw I went looking around at just chatting, whatever it was, crafting, whatever it was, one night, and I just happenstanced on her, and she didn't have like a lot of people following her. I would say maybe at peak average, I would see maybe 100 people. You'll see, and her stream is fairly alive, and if I come in and I say hello, she always, she acknowledges me, that kind of thing, and like, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just saying hello. And there's some people that I wouldn't say we are friends, but if she's doing a stream and it's the right time, and I'm doing that in place of watching TV or something at the end of my workday, I'll hang out and I'll chill. And there's some people that I talk to just in that environment that I'll follow externally outside of Twitch. Um, so that's interesting, and that's probably there's another guy who has got a pretty good community, does Lego stuff, but that doesn't. I haven't spent a lot of time sort of watching him or any of the programmer people. I really haven't. I really only watched two streamers, people that I know out in Philly that do that, have a Discord for that, um, and then that one person when she does stream for Gunpla stuff. So
I think if you look at streaming artwork, I think mostly for people it's they don't want to do it on Twitch because it's too trigger happy. So when you look at the content, it's not. For example, human shapes. Before you get to the like more refined stage, you might want to, you know, put in the colors, put in like.
mm-hmm.
It depends on what your process is, and for some people that includes nudity, and that's
Right,
totally
that's not
fine.
appropriate.
But
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of people that can't stream on Twitch because they look, there's a phase in their sketch or whatever that involves that,
Mm-hmm.
and even then, it's just Twitch by itself is not really great. There's a Bob Ross stream, I think. There's like 1.5K at
Yeah,
the
I
moment.
saw under
Like,
food. There's like the Anthony Bourdain one, and I'm like, is that first thing? Is that legit? And why are they doing that? Right? Um, it doesn't make any sense. There was definitely a period of time where even on YouTube, where everyone was like, they were making money because YouTube wasn't moderating it very accurately. Where like you would go into YouTube Live and you'd see a bazillion Family Guy and Simpsons live streams playing everything, and I'm like, what, why? I don't understand the logic of this. Clearly, they must be making some kind of automated monetization,
mhm,
income from it.
yeah,
And even if they get shut down, they just start up another one. Um, and these aren't coming from people from like in the U.S. This is coming from people from like other parts of the world where they're using a VPN and representing themselves in your country, and they're doing this thing, and clearly they have to be making some money from this, and it costs them nothing to set up a system to just constantly feed a playlist. You know.
yeah. I think if I look when I'm looking at the current Twitch art stream stuff. There's lots of people in there. It's like, they're okay, but they have like 37 viewers. I'm like, wait, what? I should be streaming on Twitch.
Right.
It's like on the other platform, there's so little people there that it's just yeah.
Yeah, so my friend Ellie does a thing, and again, I know her, and I saw her when I was at Otakon. Her and her new boyfriend, surfaced, and I saw them for a few minutes, and we have a thing with Otakon. We call it Dead Dog, but basically when we're all done, which is not necessarily true. The loadout group basically works for an extra like day and a half, packing up and getting everything shipped out. They work hard, and the problem is their real work starts before con, and then they have to, from all the departments, have to pack and ship stuff and get that stuff loaded up in trucks and get it back to the warehouse, and and all this stuff. Um, so it's a humongous effort on their part, but they don't get the benefit of getting snacks and fed for free by the convention. Where we're all, and drinks and stuff like that. When we're all basically wrapped up for the primary part of the convention. Um, so they went other ways, like, oh, we were looking for you before you're heading out. Um, so I know them. The whole point of that ramble was that I know them in real life, and if I wanted to go drive up and hang out with them in the city, I could do that. Um, and one of the things they do on Monday nights, for the most part, is they've been doing this sort of cooking thing. So they've wired up. She's wired up her whole kitchen with multiple cameras and GoPros and her cell phone. And if they're doing something where they're making, I don't know, let's say they're making a cookie or a cake, or they're making, or no, what would they make? They gutted out some watermelon or something, and they filled it with actual watermelon jello. They made watermelon jello, and so they needed to cool it down, so they stuck it in the freezer, and they had freezer camp. So like they have she's been doing this for, I don't know, probably more than 10 years. So that's one of the streams where I'll go chill, I'll go hang out, and
Yeah.
and I know these people sort of partially through that community, and some of them in person, and I certainly know them. And I certainly have the open invite. If I want to go help them cook and be on the stream, I could do that. I just don't want to drive in the city. That's what it is. I don't want to drive in the city. But she's got her whole kitchen wired up like it's a real cooking show. Except it's not in the Food Network format of a cooking show. There's no audience.
Yeah.
We're the audience. And she's been doing that for years. And that's an interesting format. And then it doesn't hurt that I know her, right? And so I know them, and it's, you sort of contribute. And she does have a lot of stuff wired up where you can, she has LEDs underneath the cabinetry in the kitchen. So if you hit the right command, you can change the color. So there's stuff like that. Or she's like, she'll say, "Hey, Chad, could you guys change the light to this? Because I can't see, I can't see what I'm cleaning right now, that kind of stuff." So she's built all this interactivity in there. Any of her subs, any of that stuff, any of the monetary stuff goes right back into charities or in the sub packages. So if you are a subscriber, she'll send you junk, every quarter.
Junk.
And she's not, she might make some money from it, but that money goes back not into her pocket, right? So
Yeah. Okay. We discussed some of Otakon, but let's skip that for now, because otherwise I'm going to have another 2-hour podcast to edit.
I think the only highlight from that was so I just want to see where we're at. Yeah, we're pretty far in. So one of the things that was interesting at Otakon is an extra 10,000 people showed up that was not expected. The pre-reg was pretty high. So we knew that the incoming, prepaid was already pretty good. And certainly, the concern of last year, we didn't know, if we were going to recover from the gap, and turned out fine. And then even more so, it was great this year with respect to that. That was a lot for registration. Registration would typically be quiet at some point, but it wasn't. It was almost ever flowing all the way even to Sunday. Um, and then also there's further complication of like making sure everyone has their wristbands and that they've been, we've checked vaccinations and people are wearing masks and stuff like that. So all the safety checks and stuff like that have to happen. But that being said, an extra 10,000 people showed up. So the notes for this is historically for Otakon, it was the largest attended Otakon ever in its nearly 30 years of history. And we nearly hit 42,000 basically in attendance.
Nice.
And that isn't like turnstile, meaning like they take one person and count them for 3 days. No, that's just people that were just people who bought a badge and then showed up. And then we correlate the people who showed up despite what the pre-reg. So if pre-reg was one number and half of them showed up, the attendance is the people who showed up, not the people who bought a pre-reg. So some other conventions look at one person as 3 days, right? So they multiply by 3. So this is an actual number. And that venue is 6.3 million square feet. Place is big. Even when it's busy, it feels fairly roomy. That being said, its occupancy limit is 42,005.
Wow.
So I don't. Now we also have some other things going on in the hotel. So we have additional space to fill up, and there's some additional floors there. I don't know that I hear the M3 and M4 floors are kind of murky and dark and dingy or something. Maybe not dingy, but just dark, like not as well lit because they're just, I don't know exactly if we would want to use them, but we can make use of that space a little bit more actively. So if we find out next year that another 10,000 people show up and we can't leave them, keep them in the main convention center, then we at least have some auxiliary space for that. That being said, this is one of the largest convention centers, at least on the East Coast. Not the largest, but one of them. So yeah, that's it. That's a historical mark and highlight.
So next year it's going to be.
Well, you can't project on that. Something might happen, or people might come back from this experience and go, it was a lot, and it was really hot, and it was inconvenient, and maybe I don't want to do that again. Right? You can't.
Well, there hasn't been a convention in 2-3 years, right? So.
There was in 21, and we had definitely an upswing, but from the last peak situation at the previous convention center, it's still up a certain percentage, right? It's definitely a good extra 12,000 or something over that number. So it's pretty good. People came and pretty solid. Yeah, so I think that's the only highlight of comment. So
yeah. Did you go through Artist Alley?
I didn't get the Artist Alley or Dealer's Room. I spent most of my time working on the documentary. I didn't go last year, primarily because I got a new job, and probably externally in the back of my head, which made me hesitate, was I was a little skittish. Can I get to and from with no problem? In my electric vehicle. I was forced to take a short trip earlier this year, and I found out I could. So, built my confidence, no anxiety over it, and it was smooth and easy. That being said, what I wanted to do last year, or wanted to do in 2020, was me and the guy who didn't come this year, who was helping me on this project, is I wanted to kind of shadow and do some behind the scenes more directly, go follow some departments. So I did that in circumstantial stuff because getting people, especially people of note that you need to sit down in front of the room that you set up for them to interview in, is very complicated. And I don't need 5 minutes. I need an hour of their time. And getting them to stop is just traumatically difficult. So it's not that I've given up, is that I was the only one person. So while I could set it up and I could do it and I achieved a couple that I could knock out, the real individuals that I really wanted in that seat and to comment and give me, from a generic interview to something more specific and some follow-ups, did not achieve that because it was just not going to be possible. So thing I wanted to do in 2020 was very simply, I wanted to shadow some departments, and like me and this other guy, like at least one of us would go follow someone for a few hours and get a lot of B story footage, and so I achieved some of that with some of those people of note. And this now is confirms the shape of things that I wanted to see in 2020, 2021. And I definitely achieved a lot of that. And some of the things I would never do. And so Artist Alley and Dealer's Room I never got to. But it gives me some insight and definitely dictates what I should be doing when I'm there. And building out a team of people that can also gives me a shape of understanding that. So that was one of the benefits of what I did this year, because I had the opportunity to do that. That being said, I walked like 27 miles, maybe 35 miles or something, walking around this weekend.
Well, that last weekend.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Last weekend. It was only 7 days ago. So, yeah.
Speaking of anime, I have some links.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a new movie coming out from the same people that did Your Name and that kind of movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to pronounce this. Can you try to pronounce this?
Suzume no Toji Marie probably. Suzume.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So anyway, there's a new movie coming out soonish. I think November.
Yeah.
Polymatic.media/15x. It looks really cool. I saw the they had a teaser trailer earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, I don't know that I saw this, but it looks good.
Yeah. It's similar to, like, I really like the way they do the cityscapes and stuff. It's usually pretty.
This is the anime I like.
Yeah.
Where they do something interesting and there's a real story and it's not formulaic.
Well,
don't
it's
get me
a
wrong.
movie.
I like my formulaic stuff, but they don't pull from a random generator database.
Did you see Weathering with Me?
I believe so. It sounds it sounds beyond familiar. I don't know if we did it as
the girl that can manipulate the weather.
If we did it as a topic for OG, then the answer is yes. Okay. I have definitely seen a bazillion AMVs for it, so I definitely know.
Yeah.
I definitely at some point it's all it.
Anyway, Polymatic/15x.
Looks good. It will probably be a show topic for OG. All right, so this is kind of old, but I pulled it anyways to try to de-emphasize a lot of TikToks, since you should have had a comment about it last time. M1 Max MacBook Pro, the actual truth. Keep in mind this is a joke. It's really just for this guy does you suck at cooking, so there's always kind of a twist on humor with him. Polymatic.link/161.
Okay, next one is the Your Name trailer, which is an older movie, but still pretty good. Polymatic.link/15y. And if you have the time, really pick it up and go watch it. It's very
good.
Yeah, it's very good.
I was going to ask if you have seen it, but it's very good.
I've seen all his movies.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought this particular TikTok was good, but this is a TikToker to follow. I don't think she really has anything but a TikTok presence. She's just her style she's just who she is, and there's no like shtick. She just is this person, and This is the person I would totally hang out with. I could see like being friends with her. She does this one thing where she asks a question and she always says some version of a good question. I would be happy to tell you. And then she goes into her introduction of what her video is. But I thought she had a pretty good point. She articulated it in a way that I already kind of practice this way. But Polymatic.link/162. Did you watch this one?
Yeah, but I don't remember what it was about. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I watched it. So
Yeah. I mean, in general, she's pretty good to follow. Yeah. I kind of, she's quirky and it's like her and, Sheena and Trid. It's just something about it. It doesn't like, just following them is the point, right? Whatever they're producing, I don't really care about their YouTube presence, but those shorts, every time they do a joke or a prank on each other, it's just something about good fun about it. So
okay, so if you want to become a VTuber, Polymatic.link/15Z, the application actually works. I tried it out, but you have to sign up with an email address or a phone number, so that's kind of bad. So yeah, I don't want to stick that stuff in there, especially after what came out this week about Twitter having a data breach. Not as much a data breach, but like they had a system where you could look up if somebody has your phone number, and then what they did is they put the phone number in, and then they checked if the contacts match up or something like that, and then that's how they got like 5 million people's phone numbers who are linked to Twitter.
wonderful.
The phone number you input for a two-factor.
Mm-hmm. That's not good.
What the actual fork?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Polymatic.link/15Z for that app. It's called Hyper, I think. This woman has
weird.
a description about how to do it.
It's weird for
hooking
me.
it up to OBS.
I couldn't do it. It's just too weird.
Well,
Put my raccoon face on or not. Leave it at that.
Well, I like the. Have you seen what Apple does? The Apple
The
thing?
Animoji stuff.
Animoji, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's how Sheena and Trid, they hit like a they were trying to encourage engagement, and they showed his face from old stuff, not current day. So that being said, they just do his emoji, in all the videos. So it's interesting. So. All right, so that was Polymatic.link/15Z. Okay, so this is DFA. This is about a record company that kind of has some historical note if you care about music. I had this sort of in my list. It's sort of like a mini documentary. I thought it was interesting, and I put it on the list to share here. Polymatic.link/163. DFA.
Okay. DIY custom LED signage. So if you want to make your own little sign with the LED lights in them, Polymatic.link/160. It's Big Clive again with his stuff that he wants to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one for me is, again, TikToker. I don't know if this guy's got a YouTube presence, but he goes through the etymology of things. And again, he has sort of a certain style where he asks a question or he makes a statement and then he goes into it. And, it's typically a pretty good, dense, loopable 3 minutes. But he talked about silly string. Polymatic.link/164.
And we talked about Animoji just a minute ago, so I thought I'd find this link. CGP Grey Animoji. He gets a little bit off the rails with his using Animoji. Polymatic.link/165. I think you should watch this.
Okay.
After a few minutes, maybe after we stop recording.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, where can they find you, Alan?
On the internet.
On the internet.
You can find me here.
Polymatic.link/Alan for his link. So it goes to his Twitter. where he never speaks anyway. So anyway, for me, Polymatic.link/John. For feedback, you can reach the podcast at Polymatic.media. Our Twitter is The Polymatic. Our website is Polymatic.media. And I hope you tune in next time.